Dracula by Bram Stoker, Chapter 14. Dr. Seward's Diary continued. For had she lived more than one day, we could have saved her. Do you know all this mystery of life and death? Do you know the altogether of comparative anatomy, and can say wherefore the qualities of brutes are in some men and not in others? Can you tell me why, when other spiders die, small and soon, that one great spider lived for centuries in the tower of the old Spanish church, and grew until, on descending, he could drink the oil of all the church lamps? Can you tell me why, in the pampas, aye, and elsewhere, there are bats that come at night and open the veins of cattle and horses and suck dry their veins? How in some islands of the western areas there are bats which hang on the trees all day, that those who have been seen describe as like giant nuts or pods, that when sailors sleep on the deck because it is hot, flit down on them, and then in the morning are found dead men, white as even Miss Lucy was. Good God, Professor, I said, starting up. Do you mean to tell me that Lucy has been bitten by such a bat, and that such a thing is here in London in the 19th century? He waved his hand for silence and went on. Can you tell me why the tortoise lives more long than the generations of men, why the elephant goes on and on till he have seen dynasties, why the parrot never died directly only of bite of cat or dog or other complaint? Can you tell me why men believe in all ages and places that there are some few who live on always if they be permitted, that there are men and women who cannot die? We all know, because science has vouched for the fact, that there have been toads shut up in rocks for thousands of years, shut in one so small hole that only one hold him since the youth of the world. Can you tell me how the Indian fakir can make them himself to die and have been buried, and his grave sealed and corn sowed on it, and the corn reaped and be cut and sown and reaped and cut again? And then men come and take away the unbroken seal, and there lie the Indian fakir, not dead, but that rise up and walk amongst them as before. Here I interrupted him. I was getting bewildered. He so crowded on my mind his list of nature's eccentricities and possible impossibilities that my imagination was going fired. I had a dim idea that he was teaching me some lesson, as long ago he used to do in his study in Amsterdam. But he used then to tell me the thing, so that I could have the object of thought in mind at the time, but now I was without his help, yet I wanted to follow him. So I said, Professor, let me be your pet student again. Tell me the thesis, so that I may apply your knowledge as you go on. At present I am going in my mind from point to point as a madman. Not sane. One follows an idea. I feel like a novice blundering through a bog and a mist, jumping from one tussock to another in the mere blind effort to move on without knowing where I am. That is a good image, he said. Well, I shall tell you. My thesis is this. I want you to believe. To believe what? To believe in the things that you cannot. Let me illustrate. I heard once of an American who so defined faith, that which enables us to believe in things which we know to be untrue. For one, I followed that man. He meant that we shall have an open mind and not let a little bit of the truth check the rush of a big truth, like a small rock does a railway truck. We get the small truth first. Good. We keep him and we value him. But all the same we must not let him think himself all the truth in the universe. Then you want me not to let some previous conjunction injure the receptivity of my mind with regard to some strange matter? Do I read your lesson aright? Ah, you are still my favourite pupil. It is worth you teach. Now that you are willing to understand, you have taken the first step to understand. You think that those two so small holes in the children's throats were made by the same thing that made the hole in Miss Lucy? I suppose so. He stood up and said solemnly, Then you are wrong. Oh, would it be worse so? But alas, no. It is worse. Far, far worse. In God's name, Professor Van Helsing, what do you mean? I cried. He threw himself with a despairing gesture into a chair, and placed his elbows on the table, covering his face with his hands as he spoke. They were made by Miss Lucy.